Welcome to WatchMojo. Today we're ranking every Resident Evil final boss. For this list, we'll be looking at the greatest and hardest final bosses from each mainline Resident Evil title. Which of these boss fights did you find the most memorable? Let us know in the comments below.
Have you ever seen anything so incredible? The data on this would be worth millions.
Number 8. Eveline, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
Why does everyone hate me?
Many fans and critics agreed that Resident Evil 7 was a welcome return to the series' roots. It was scary, it was atmospheric, and perhaps most importantly, it put a major emphasis on the survival horror aspects. That said, it had a pretty weak final boss in Eveline, and we use the words final boss very, very lightly. Unfortunately, there's just not much here, aside from some incredible and grotesque visuals. You mostly just pump as much ammo as you can into Eveline's massive and horrifically disfigured face, and there's very little, if any, fear of dying. It's wonderfully cinematic, and it looks and sounds terrific, but it falls disappointingly short in the gameplay and strategy departments. It serves as a somewhat flat ending to an otherwise great game.
I'm Redfield. I'm glad we found you.
Number 7. HAOS, Resident Evil 6. Owing to its unique structure, Resident Evil 6 actually contains multiple final bosses. Simmons makes for a pretty bland and unmemorable boss, and the Ustanuk fight is nothing but a glorified QuickTime event. HAOS is by far the best final boss of the game, and it's encountered in the action-packed Chris storyline. First things first, HAOS looks incredible. Its design is unforgettable, serving as a massive tentacled creature with an eerie skull with pulsing veins and human-looking eyes. The fight also conveys a terrific sense of scale, and it contains some great gameplay that keeps the QuickTime events to a minimum. This thing is pure Resident Evil, and it is glorious. Number 6. Wesker, Resident Evil 5. This is when the series started going down a more Hollywood blockbuster route, and it contained a suitably bombastic ending that takes place inside an active volcano. That said, the fight was against the series' biggest villain, Wesker, and whether it lived up to the hype is up for debate. The fight encapsulates Resident Evil 5 in every possible way, from the epic volcano setting to the co-op based gameplay between Chris and Sheva to the iconic moment that sees Chris punching a boulder into the lava. Some found it a magnificent battle that served as a high-octane finish to a high-octane game, and others hated it for the exact same reasons. Either way, it's a very well-made boss fight, complete with the famous shoot this glowing weak spot Resident Evil trope. Number 5. Miranda, Resident Evil Village.
I will take back my daughter!
The fight with Miranda is a visually stunning and sounding piece of work. It takes place in a creepy gladiator pit of sorts, and Miranda is one of the most visually distinctive bosses in the Resident Evil canon. The fight is also scored to an epic choral piece of music that sounds like it was ripped from Dark Souls. There are also some unique gameplay elements within the battle, including the sudden shift to black that sees the helpless player fighting Miranda in the dark. They certainly learned from the disappointing Eveline fight, as this one actually contains some gameplay and an element of challenge. There's little more to it than dodging attacks and shooting Miranda in the face, but it's enough, and the atmosphere goes a long way. Number 4. Sadler, Resident Evil 4.
To show my appreciation, I will help you awaken from your world of cliches.
This boss was quite revolutionary for the time. Sadler's final form, some type of disgusting spider creature with giant eyeballs, introduced the concept of massive otherworldly monsters to the series, and it had a direct influence on the increasingly bombastic entries that followed. The 100-foot tall grotesquerie that is Eveline would not be possible without Sadler. It was also far more epic in scope than prior boss fights of the series. It took place on an expansive construction site, and the player was forced to use their surroundings to their advantage, like pulling levers to swing giant beams of steel into Sadler. The fight also contained the lovable shoot here weak spot trope. The perfectly integrated quick-time events were not overbearing, and it contained a fantastic ending that sees Leon blasting away Sadler with a rocket launcher. It's a great and greatly influential final boss fight. Number 3. Tyrant, T002 model, Resident Evil. The Tyrant fight from the first Resident Evil is obviously antiquated today, but it set the standard for Resident Evil boss fights and introduced many gameplay elements that continue to be used to this day. The fight entirely revolves around running away, keeping your distance, and pumping bullets into the monstrous Terminator-esque creature. There's little to the gameplay itself, but the fight was able to convey a terrific sense of fear and anxiety, and its run away, shoot, dodge, run away formula became a Resident Evil staple. The fight also ends with the player using a rocket launcher against the Tyrant, an ending that would be repeated numerous times throughout the series, including in Resident Evil 2 and 4. This boss fight is the very definition of a benchmark.
Jill, use it! Kill it, whatever it is!
Number 2. Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Arguably the most famous villain in the Resident Evil franchise, Nemesis serves as the titular antagonist of the acclaimed third entry. The Nemesis is actually a recurring obstacle throughout the game, and the player is forced to continuously run from the pursuing creature. But when it comes time to actually fight the Nemesis, the game doesn't mess around. The original game sees Jill fighting a modified form of the monster, one which crawls and attacks with writhing tentacles. It plays out much like the Tyrant fight from the first game, consisting of little more than running, dodging and shooting. The remake keeps the general theme and concept of the fight intact, but replaces the crawling Nemesis with a horrific mass of limbs, slime, and sinew. Both fights consist of shooting, evading, and powering up a massive weapon that eventually deals the climactic death blow. Both the fight itself and finally defeating Nemesis once and for all are wickedly satisfying.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. T00, Resident Evil 2. The horrifying mass that is Birkin may technically be the final boss of Resident Evil 2, but the climax belongs to the T00, and it's by far the better fight. Both versions of Resident Evil 2 see Leon facing off against the T00 in an enclosed area. The only strategy is to run and dodge, keep a healthy distance, and unload on the unkillable monster with every weapon in your arsenal. It's a thrilling exercise in tension, and the fight perfectly toes the line between excitement and frustration. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, Ada hands you a rocket launcher and you blow the Tyrant to kingdom come. It's very reminiscent of the Tyrant fight from the first Resident Evil, from the run and shoot mechanic to the explosive and gooey rocket launcher finale. But it's harder, scarier, and more exciting. And the flaming Tyrant with his massive claws makes for the series' most imposing final boss.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.